Yeah, it's been raining the last couple of days, and the water's been pooling on the field. There's actually been standing water on the field. Then they finally put a tarp over it. It's not raining now, but if it's sloppy out there, it's got to favor Alabama just because they're bigger and more physical across the board.
Travis Etienne has been a difference maker on the ground for Clemson this season. What kind of impact do you think he could have in this game for the Tigers?
Jeremy, he's one of the huge X factors. I mean, they've been a run-first team all season long. And since September, no one's come within more than 20 points of them. So the fact that Travis Etienne has been able to take over games has taken the pressure off of their true freshman quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Now, it's a whole nother problem taking over a game on the ground against the Alabama defense. They're one of the best tackling teams in the country. But Travis Etienne will have to be effective in order for Clemson to have a chance.
Clemson changed quarterbacks essentially to match up better with Alabama, it would seem. So Trevor Lawrence is the guy, Tua Tagovailoa on the other side. What do you think of that quarterback matchup in this game, assuming that Tua is still healthy?
Yeah, Jeremy, you're right about that switch. I think everybody around the country that had a legitimate chance at the national championship, at the playoff, was looking at what Tua did last year and trying to figure out how they could get more offensive firepower. They were also looking at Kyler Murray of Oklahoma this year, thinking, okay, if we make it to that playoff and we've got to face one of those quarterbacks, we need to be able to score a lot of points. I think that's one of the reasons that Clemson went with Trevor Lawrence in the fifth game as the starter over Kelly Bryant, just because he could do more with his arm and he could strike faster, deeper. To me, Trevor Lawrence has been phenomenal this year, but that cool that he has shown, the calmness that he's shown, has that been because he really is that cool and calm, or because they've beat everybody since September by 3 or more touchdowns, and he hasn't had to throw the ball in the second half while trailing? Well, Bama wants to find that out. They've got one of the, well, maybe the most disruptive interior defensive lineman in the country, the Outland Trophy winner, Quinnen Williams, that'll get up the field and try to get into Lawrence's face early and often. And if he's able to do that, and if Bama's able to score some and take the lead, then Trevor Lawrence will have to be in a position that he hasn't been in this year. And that is having to throw, having to make plays with his arm, or they'll lose the game, but having an Outland Trophy winner in his face all the time. So Bama wants to test that calmness, that legendary cool demeanor of Trevor Lawrence. And it may be that he'll carry that cool demeanor into that kind of pressure. But it may be that he just hasn't been in the fire yet, and Alabama will try to find out.
Yeah, Notre Dame certainly wasn't the same kind of test as Alabama in the semis. We're talking to ESPN's Trevor Matich ahead of the national championship game tonight, 8 Eastern time. Looking forward to that. Trevor, this is a matchup that we've seen a few times now. I personally like it. There are those that don't like the repeat of the same kind of matchup. Do you think it's good for college football that these two Titans continue to meet up like this?
Jim, with respect to people that want to see two different teams in the championship, y'all are nuts. Just nuts. I mean, these are far and away the best two teams in the country. They dominated their semis, not because 3 and 4 weren't worthy of being in the playoff, but because 1 and 2 were so great. I think that this is a different game also than what we've seen from these two in the past. I mean, last year they met in the semis, but in the finals when they split from 3 years ago and 2 years ago, they're different teams, especially Alabama. I mean, Alabama, when they faced Clemson in the finals, they were a team that had a dominant defense and an offense that played complementary football, close to the vest, run the ball, throw safe passes. That's Alabama. Well, now Alabama has a defense that's not as dominant as those defenses, but an offense that's an all-timer of a deep strike offense, where Tua and those receivers can score from anywhere on the field on any individual play. So this is a completely different scenario. It's a different kind of a matchup. It's a different set of problems for the opponent. And I think this will be tremendous fun. Now, for people that want different helmets out there, different logos to watch, okay, I get that. But give them a chance, because I think they'll put on a show for you.
Yeah, there have been some great matchups, great finishes, right, and excited about it. Vegas says Bama by 5. Do you think that's a fair line?
I think it's fair. It's hard for me to be confident in picking this thing. And I think if you've got to say Bama by 5, that's okay. I think part of what Vegas does is sets the line for the sake of the public. They want the same amount of money on both sides of that transaction. And if the public thinks Bama should win, then they've got to give more points to Clemson. So I think that's part of what that's about.
Let's transition to a couple of BYU topics here. James Empey, named Freshman All-American, the center for BYU. You were a center at BYU. What does it mean to have a freshman All-American, potentially a 4-year starter in James Empey?
It is fantastic. It validates recruiting. It creates a new dynamic in that building. Empey now, everybody knew that he was an outstanding player, but now he's got that mantle of freshman All-American. It creates a leadership validation for him. It creates a standard that he needs to live up to, which will make him better. The other players, too, want what he's got. I mean, when I was a freshman at BYU, I looked at the other guys getting, all-conference and all-America honors, and I thought, I want some of that. I want some of that. Well, how do you get some of that? Well, you prepare, you work like crazy in order to get that. And I think having that is good for the whole team because now they're saying, look, he can do it, I can do it too. And that's just a good thing to have in your culture. Recruits also. Now they have a validation. Recruiters will be able to say, look, we've got a freshman All-American. You can come here too and be a freshman All-American and a sophomore All-American, et cetera. You can earn those honors at BYU. We've already done it. Take a look at James Empey. And I think everything about this is good for the program.
All right, Trevor, Alabama and Clemson. Who do you have winning tonight's national championship?
Well, Jim, since you've got me pinned down, I say Alabama by a field goal, I think 27-24. And there are two reasons. One is I think Quinton Williams will be a factor, getting pressure up the middle and disrupting plays. But the other reason is that even though Clemson is one of the most physical teams in the country, Alabama adds an extra layer of physicality to where you call it brutality. I mean, they hate you, and they play like it. If these two teams went into a dark alley behind a bar at 2 a.m. and had a fight, just a street fight, I think Alabama would be the team that would emerge victorious because they're just mean. And I think that the fact that they've got more guys that are bigger and stronger than Clemson has that are that size and strength, and the fact that that attitude that they carry into it will tell in the fourth quarter. I think that not having Dexter Lawrence, the 340-pound defensive tackle in there, will tell in the fourth quarter. And I think ultimately the combination of Quinton Williams and Alabama's sheer primal caveman brutality will eke out a victory.
And let's finish with this, Trevor. Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick says he'd love an opportunity to play a 13th game each season. So 2 questions. 1, do you think that'd be approved? And 2, if so, could BYU fit into that equation as an opponent?
I would love it. To get it approved, I think, would be tough because why would the other programs want Notre Dame to have that kind of advantage? I mean, they're not crazy about Notre Dame knocking another conference champion out of the playoff anyway. And so to give Notre Dame the advantage of a 13th game, it would make them even richer than they are, and they're already one of the richest programs in college football. I think there'd be resistance, but I think it would be great. I think it would be fair. And if BYU could be that 13th game year in and year out, that would be phenomenal. They're natural potential rivals. They have a lot in common in a lot of ways, especially academically. I mean, the obvious part is the religious part, but academically, these are two highly respected schools. And I think you put all that together, they're a natural matchup to have. And if it could happen, I think it'd be great for both schools.
And Notre Dame owes BYU a game at the moment, so perhaps that comes into the mix. We'll see. Trevor, how can people catch your coverage before and during tonight's national championship game?
Okay, I will be doing ESPN Radio, pregame, halftime, and postgame. So tune in an hour before the game on ESPN Radio or ESPNRadio.com and click listen live. And it will be tremendous fun. I mean, I do this every year. We do it from the field. So we'll be on about the 20-yard line behind one of the benches, right in the belly of the beast, right in the middle of it. It's my favorite thing to do in a broadcast season, and I can't wait for this thing to get going.
Well, stay dry, enjoy it, and thanks for the time, Trevor.